Imagine peering into the thick, suffocating darkness of a remote road, expecting to find a stranger, only to see a perfect, breathing replica of your own face staring right back at you. On a winter night near the village of Raipur, 3 men, Deepak, Rajan, and Sohan, were driving home when their truck was swallowed by fog. The headlights barely pierced the gloom before illuminating something standing dead center in their path. Assuming it was a lost woman, Sohan stepped out to help. But as he reached out to lift the figure's bowed head, he didn't find a stranger. The face looking up at him was his own. The entity even spoke in his exact voice. Before Sohan could even process the horror, the creature lunged. It snapped its white sari around his neck, silencing him instantly. His friends, paralyzed by what they had just witnessed, slammed the truck into gear and abandoned him to the dark. The entity functions as a calculated, parasitic hunter, weaponizing the victim's own identity to disarm them before the kill. The entity didn't disappear after the roadside attack. It followed the survivors into the village. Within days, every home in Raipur was silent. When police finally arrived, they found a ghost town marked only by blood-smeared warnings reading, Chalawa. To understand how a single entity could dismantle a community so quickly, we have to strip away the local superstition. If we examine the Chalawa as an undocumented predator, strict, observable behavioral rules begin to emerge. The accounts of survivors and victims alike point to a highly organized hunting methodology. Phase 1, the lure. Phase 2, the feeding. And ultimately, the possession. Surviving an encounter with this entity requires knowing exactly how it isolates its prey. If you learn the mechanics of its manipulation, you might just keep your face. Phase 1 is the lure. Like many terrestrial predators, Chalawa has an absolute requirement. It must separate a target from the safety of the herd to guarantee a successful strike. Take the case of a group of 4 friends camping in a nearby forest. A completely mundane, petty argument over a game of truth or dare caused one camper, Neelu, to storm off into a restricted area of the woods. Her boyfriend Amar followed, providing the perfect catalyst for isolation. Once they were physically separated from the group and disoriented by the dark, the entity initiated sensory mimicry. It simulated Amar's voice whispering in Neely's ear and the physical weight of a hand on her shoulder, coaxing her further off the path. When Neelu and the real Amar finally managed to find each other, the trap snapped shut. They were suddenly pursued by perfect, horrifying doppelgangers of themselves. In the chaos of the chase, they couldn't tell who to trust, fracturing their reality. The Chalawa's primary weapon is the systematic dismantling of a victim's objective reality. It confuses the senses until the prey is perfectly, helplessly vulnerable. This chart illustrates Phase 2, the biological physics of the entity. According to the village priest, Pandit Shamlal, the Chalawa is a parasite that literally feeds on fear. When host panic rises, the entity's power output spikes in direct correlation. In its initial state, the creature is physically weak, almost formless. It relies entirely on this feedback loop. The more terror it generates in the victim, the more physical mass and mimicry accuracy it gains, solidifying its shape in the real world. We saw the ultimate escalation of this mechanic during the Raipur massacre. The initial encounters created such immense mass panic that it provided enough raw energy for the Chalawa to simultaneously manifest as multiple trusted loved ones across the entire village. Panic serves as the physical fuel source for the strike. Through their terror, the victim provides the energy required for their own execution. But terrorizing victims is merely a means to an end. This brings us to Phase 3, the possession. The entity's actual goal is to find a permanent anchor to our reality. Journalist Neha arrived in the abandoned village searching for her brother Deepak, unaware that her presence would trigger the entity's final objective. This diagram shows the critical difference in how the entity selects its targets. The faces of the villagers it stole earlier were just temporary, disposable masks. To cross over permanently, the node cycles through candidates until it locks onto one precise match. The Chalawa haunting Raipur was the cursed soul of Neha's father. He wasn't hunting at random. He was searching for a vessel bound to him by blood. When the entity finally cornered Neha, it didn't kill her. Instead, it systematically erased her memories, overriding them with his own. Her eyes faded to black as her father's consciousness took permanent control of her body. The Chalawa is a desperate, parasitic soul seeking resurrection. To cross the threshold from a wandering anomaly to a living person, it requires a specific biological or spiritual match. With Neha's identity erased, her father now walks in her skin. She, or rather it, kicked over the engine of the motorcycle and rode toward the city, carrying the infection into a population of millions. Contrast her fate with the campers, Nilu and Amar. They managed to survive the forest and return home, but they were left with deep psychological scars. Every day they sit across from one another, exchanging suspicious, paranoid glances, wondering if the person they see is truly their partner. The horror of the Chalawa forces a realization. Our sense of reality is fragile, and we can never be certain if the face looking back at us is truly the person we love.